Hello, everybody. First of all, let me welcome you all to our third conversation of our cycle, Zoom In on Masters, organized by the Intercultural Institute for Comparative Music Studies of the Fondazione Giorgio Cini, this time devoted to a very refined form of Indian theater. In fact, today, as in our previous conversations, we will focus on a project that we consider very important in our 2020 programs and that we were forced to postpone due to the lockdown. The performance of Parvati's Choice by Kapila Venu and the troupe of the Natana Kairali Center, truly a masterpiece of the Kutiyattam theatre of Kerala, of South India. It is a performance that we hope we will be able to stage next year live in Venice, and that we want to present today in this format of a conversation, having the unique chance to talk to the artist and to go behind some meanings and techniques of this performance. Staging this performance would have been important for our institute for a number of reasons. First of all, because of the ties that we have with the arts and culture of India ever since Alain Danielou founded our institute over 50 years ago. Since then, India holds a privileged place in our programs with a number of well-known artists who came to perform in Venice. And we are proud to continue this tradition, proposing to our audience a talented and innovative artists such as Kapila Venu. It is important to us also because in our programs, we always want to cover, together with music, also dance and theater. And Kutiyattam is a wonderful example of a blend between sound, gesture, and dramatic narration. A theater recited in Sanskrit, tracing back to the 9th century, with the peculiarity of the presence of female performance, in which music plays an important role through the sung word of the performance and the big clay drums Mizawu, a theater that already in 2001 was declared Masterpiece of Oral and Intangible Heritage of Humanity by UNESCO. A third reason why this project is very dear to us is the fact that we had planned to organize it in connection to a workshop of our cycle Eyes on Music, devoted to training in audiovisual ethnomusicology, a program for young researchers that is proving to be very fruitful. Kapila agreed to cooperate with this project. As it is not possible to work live in Venice, experimenting new and innovative audiovisual forms to convey our programs and ideas, such as this new format, Zoom In on Masters, I think is an ideal extension of that project. Last but not least, the importance of this event is due to the presence of Kapila Venu herself and to other important guests today, truly masters of the tradition of Kutiyattam theater, that were able to carry into the 21st century, innovating it while keeping within an ancient tradition rooted in the sacred rituals of Brahmanism. Kapila, that we had the privilege to have as a teacher in Venice a few years ago, is one of the leading figures of the Natana Kairali's Research and Performing Center for Traditional Arts, a center that is now directed by her, and that is nurtured by the presence of two authoritative figures, such as her father, Gopal Venu, in a lineage that is keeping and furthering the legacy of the great guru Amanur Madhava Chakiyar, and also by her mother, Nirmala Paniker, a renowned performance of the dance genre Mohiniyattam, both with us today, as you can see. To lead the conversation with Kapila and the other participants to this event, we have with us today Professor Vito Di Bernardi, who teaches history of dance and Asian theater at the Università di Roma La Sapienza, and who is member of the scientific committee of our institute. Professor Di Bernardi has already met Kapila in other occasions and has visited the Natana Kairali Center himself a few years ago. This conversation, therefore, will be also a reunion among people who share knowledge and passion for Indian arts and culture, in an ongoing exchange.
Let me say some few words before starting our conversation. In response to the coronavirus that plagued the world and stopped everywhere all the theatrical activities, we created today the opportunity to meet one of the most relevant South India family of actors and dancers, the Venu family. I would like to thank Kapila Venu for her availability for this online encounter. In addition to Kapila, we are happy to have with us also Mr. Gopal Venu and Mr. Nirmala Panikar, both artists and scholars well known in Kerala, but actually not only in Kerala, which is the Indian state where Kuthiyatam originated and developed. Thank you both for being here today. Kapila, let's start our conversation with recent events. In the coronavirus emergency in Kerala, what was and now what is the situation concerning the possibilities to perform, rehearse, and teach theater and dance?
Speaking especially about performers and practitioners of traditional art forms, this is a very challenging situation. Well, every artist is taking care of their own career and their own life, their own performance. So performance is livelihood. So this year, everybody's performance life has come to a standstill, and so 90% of the performers have no income, and so it's extremely challenging for, I would say, every traditional practitioner in Kerala to just keep life going and to support their families.
It's like Italy. We are in the same situation till now. Just now we are restarting to do something with the audience, restrict audience. Mr. Venu, you are a consummate performer, promoter, and you are an authority in Kuthiyatam. Could you briefly introduce us to this traditional performance, which is the oldest form of a living theater in the world? The scholars consider the Kuthiyatam the oldest living theater in the world.
Kuthiyatam, India's most ancient theater. Our earliest playwright is Bhasa, who lived, we don't know exactly his period, even now historians are debating. His 13 plays came to Kerala long ago, before Bharata, according to our traditional belief. He was living before Bharata, who is the author of Natyashastra. Those plays, the Kerala theatre people, they thought that there is always love for theatre, in Kerala, ritual and folk and all sort of theatre. And they developed a production style for enacting Bhasa's play that becomes Kuthiyatam. Later on, many other plays also added. Briefly saying, what is the importance of Kuthiyatam, what is the difference between other, we have many dance forms, dance drama forms, but Natya, the theatre, is only Kuthiyatam. And there is a permanent arrangement for preserving and performing in the temples, even outside in ancient days. Kuthiyatam is preserved. So Kuthiyatam, this, for presenting the plays written by Bhasa, the most one of the most pioneers in Indian playwriting, whom we believe that he lived before Bharata, who is the author of Natyashastra. Because Bhasa never followed Bharata's conventions of theatre. That become Kuthiyatam, and somehow Kerala, great lovers, art lovers, the rulers of Kerala in ancient days, they thought it should be preserved, all these productions. So they have decided to make it as a regular thing happening in the temples of Kerala. Special theatre was created. And the greatest importance I always give to Kudiyattam is that the women were allowed to perform. No other theatre in the world during that period, women were not allowed. But in Kudiyattam, women are allowed, and only women can do the main roles, female roles. So that is the greatest contribution of Kudiyattam. And then the acting technique. There's a specific technique developed, acting with the eyes and the hand gestures, and the actors themselves recite the text, and the percussion specifically for acting, for theatre acting. There is a great difference between dance and theatre.
The relation between a guru and his student is unique in Indian tradition. That between you and the Guru Amanumadeva Chakyar has been of a singular friendship. You have been both a student and an impresario of this great dancer and actor, who was also a kind of a priest. Could you tell me something about your relationship with your guru and the activities you developed together, and then the activity you are now doing?
I was a Kathakali performer, but I was doing a lot of research in Kathakali, within Kathakali, and I also tried to understand other forms. One day I happened to be in Trishur temple. First time I am seeing my guru, Amanal Madhav Chakyar, 1976. When I saw him concentrating on the lamp, and his eyes so powerful, and his breath made my breath started feeling the vibration. And that was a portion which lasted 4 hours continuously. He was doing a solo. I was spellbound. That was the first time. Hardly any audience there, 10, 15 people. So I went and prostrated in front of him as mark of my great appreciation. That day I decided that if the life is meaningful, if I learn at least a little bit of his art. But those days, he cannot teach people from other communities. I am not a Shakyar, I am from outside. So I didn't ask him to teach, but I just served him for his welfare, for the welfare of his art. So it went on like that. He was totally, when he realized that I am doing better for him, one day he told me, you can learn. Immediately I resigned my job and started living with my guru. Then I continued 40 years. It is more important that I made others learn. I made non-traditions, young people learn under him. So we could create a new generation of excellent artists under his guidance. I am very grateful to that. And we have a very wonderful relationship. He was so kind and so nice and so generous with me. So I had a wonderful time.
You started with a new generation of Kudiyattam artists coming not from the Chakyar caste, because Chakyar is a closed caste, no?
At that time, we took both.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the Chakyar traditional students also have been included.
Oh.
For Guruji, once we started that, when we established a Gurukul,
Yeah.
he never showed any partiality of his own people or the people from other community. He was treating them equally.
And you also trained women like Usha Nangya. Yeah, that gave me the opportunity to ask to your wife Mrs. Panikar, who founded many years ago a research center for dance and traditional women of Kerala, about the presence of women dancers in all the tradition like Kutiyattam. Before, we know that in Kathakali we had female dancers, but in Kutiyattam that was possible since a long time ago. What is the position of women into the traditional performing arts of Kerala?
Kerala, we can see women dancers from the history, I'm saying. In the history, you can see about Kerala female dancers since 600 BC. Many type of dancers. There was one group, they were known as Viralis. Viral means bhava, emotion. And these emotions they used to enact with the outer signs on the body. To simply say that if you are sad, the eyes will be shining with tears. Such a great tradition we had, but after some time, but usually Kerala was known as a female, like females are the more important for a country. But later on, some other tribes or communities came, and they are the patriarchal. Otherwise, it used to be matriarchal. So ever since they came, they wanted the ladies sort of under their control, like so many things they changed. And then after many years, when they came to their own position, then they allowed the ladies, I think. That may be the reason. But anyway, those days itself, we can see in writings that the ladies were so well enacted dance and natya also it says. They say with virali means the one who has viral produced outer signs. So it was so great, and even the dance, we go about Mohiniyattam, we say the Purana says the Shiva the ultimate male part, and universe, I mean in the universe, earth is the Prakriti, we call it. So the Prakriti wanted to create the universe. They danced the first Mohini dance to attract. Even now that is the theme of it, usually accepted. To attract, Shiva, Parvati danced. Or if you take another very great group dance, which also equally important like this, those days the historians, it's not written. They sing and they go on to streets after streets. Those were known as the song. In that it says, some places they'll say, take another one I said is Tiruvadirakali. I am talking of Tiruvadirakali. That is a ritual dance. Like Parvati's wanted to get Shiva, she did that. But here it says, any child, any girl, any social community, any girl, want to get their best husband, one of the best. They did this with all rituals, and they danced throughout the night. They had special food, and that was sort of vrita. We call it vrita, like a vow to God to get this blessings. And like that, it was like that. So it doesn't mean only not only in Kudiyattam, means like before that also we had lots of dancers in Kerala. I can say 100 names like Mohiniyattam, Achikuttu, Tevidishiyattam, Nangyarkuttu, then Chudalakuttu, Ammanattam, Pandattam, that's all like plays, play games. But it's all with dance. So if you take any of these Sangha literature, you can make out Kerala had a very rich culture with ladies, and their attam really means, in the real Malayalam, swaying side to side.
So the female tradition as dancers, actresses is a singularity of Kerala, because in other parts of India we have noted this great presence, large presence of women in the traditional theater. Thank you very much for what you have said, very interesting. And now I would like to go on with and I pray Mr. Kapila Venu just to introduce briefly what Kapila is going to show us.
What Kapila is showing is a very, very important aspect of abhinaya in our acting system, which is the actor invoke the masculine and the feminine expressions from that is considered to be the highest qualification of an Indian actor. One who is able to invoke both the masculine and feminine aspects in one body. So that was handed over through generations. Kuriyattam still keep a portion called Parvati Viraham, in which first she established herself as Shiva, and then Parvati comes with all these minute movements of the eye, etc., the coming of Parvati. Then Parvati come and sit on Shiva's lap. So the actor have to do both the roles of Shiva and Parvati, the conversation. She asks, "What, I see something on your head. What is that?" Then Shiva says, "In my head there is water." Again she look at, and she says, "But I see a face." Then he replied that it's not the face, but it is in the water there is lotus flower. Then she say, "But I see the core of a woman." Actually, goddess Ganga, the river goddess, is hiding in Shiva's matted locks. She knew about it, but she don't want to ask this. So then again he say lie and this, and I don't know how far she can act. And this is what happening. The conversation between Shiva and Parvati. This is considered to be the highest in the form of acting in Kuriyattam, because usually when a man or a woman enact the other part, when a woman enact the role of man or the other side, it may slip into the comic elements. But here keeping the complete seriousness of the theme with mudra and other thing and the stylized language, with the total involvement, the actor enact this. So she is doing that beginning part of that particular portion, the Parvati Viraha.
I just wanted to add one sentence. This is that exactly says in the Sangham literature that Ullatti Nikazhum Pugalkal Udambin Kannal Verbad Therivipol, means what is in your mind, with slight change or even more change, they can be either Shiva or Parvati. Fully outer they become. So that's very speciality of Kerala, Abhinaya. If you go scrutinize, almost all Kala art forms you can find, Kathakali, etc. Slightly different according to the style of dance.
So Kapila, could you explain us what happened in and in this, in what you showed us, what I mean, the meaning of a gesture and the movement of the eyes, you know?
Originally, this piece of performance is from the Kudiyatam play Torana Yuddham. And so here Ravana, to describe his own valor, he recollects the incident where he once lifted the Mount Kailasa and threw it into the air. So this is very elaborately enacted, and this portion is called Kailasodharanam. And following Kailasodharanam comes Parvati Viraham, where Ravana describes that while I was tossing the Mount Kailasa up and down in the air with my 20 arms, Kailasa, which is the abode of Lord Shiva. So while I was throwing the mountain up, on top of the mountain, Shiva and Parvati were having an argument. So then Ravana goes on to elaborate in great detail the conversation between Shiva and Parvati, and they are arguing about Shiva's other wife or other love, Ganga, who resides in his hair. And then Ravana describes this whole quarrel in great detail, and to the point where Parvati becomes so upset with Shiva that she decides to leave him and starts walking away to her father's house. And exactly at that moment, Ravana begins to play with the Kailasa and he throws it into the air, and the earth under her feet begin to tremble, and Parvati becomes so afraid that she forgets about her fight with Shiva and she returns into his arms. So this is the whole episode, and it's enacted in great detail. So that is the original piece. And now in my performance, I have adapted this piece into a solo performance as an elaboration of, again, a very old shloka beginning Maulau Kim Nu Mahesha. So based on that shloka, I am performing it now as a narration, as a storytelling.
Can you show us an example of this relationship between eyes movement and hand movement?
Kudiyatam is often referred to as the theater of the eyes. So in Kudiyatam, the relationship between the hand and the eye is of prime importance. It is the essence of our abhinaya. And the principle is like this: wherever the hands go, the eyes must follow. And wherever the eyes go, the mind follows. And wherever the mind goes, there is bhava or emotion. And when the bhava is evoked, there is rasa, the aesthetic experience in the spectator. So in Kudiyatam, all gestures are accompanied by the eye. The principles change slightly from gesture to gesture, because for us, the eye is something, the only part of the body that, even though it is physically attached to the body like all the other parts, the eye is the only part of the body that can actually transcend all physical limitations and travel across space and time. So when we look at an ocean, the hand is limited to this movement, but the eye can span a vast ocean when it's associated with the mind. And similarly, if you draw a vertical line, an eye can pierce through the ceiling, into the sky, into the clouds, into the highest point where the Swarga, where the gods reside, and make the longest line down back through the flow into a deep well, a deep cliff, into the netherworld, the Naraka, where the demons and the serpents reside. So the eye has unlimited possibilities, and Kudiyatam really, the Abhinaya explores the possibilities of the eye in different variations related to emotion and so on.
So eyes are very important for imagination, for the audience imagination, because the audience follows the eyes and the hands, no? You create an image in the mind of the audience.
We believe that everything is possible only if the eye and the mind are associated together. And also, when you look at a mountain, you, as in the actor, looks at a mountain, the masters always tell you that it's only if you see the mountain with all genuinity and sincerity and precision can the spectator see the mountain. So yes, associated with imagination. But there's a whole other aspect wherein Kudiyattam is strictly forbidden, except for some special characters, to make any eye contact with the audience. So we have a lamp beyond from which all gestures begin and all gestures should end. The eyes end at the lamp. So we're always communicating to the lamp and never directly to any individual or anybody in the audience. So the meeting point is the lamp. Physically, we don't see beyond the lamp. But imaginatively, we can create a whole world.
That is not like that in Kathakali is different, I think.
It's slightly different, yes.
Like different. This eyes movement is a singular, particular of Kudiyattam, of course. Kapila, Parvati Viram is a masterpiece of very famous Kudiyattam actors. Did you learn this piece directly for Amanur Mandavachakyar?
I cannot say I learned it directly, but I have had the good fortune of watching Ashan perform this piece several times, and I may have had the opportunity once or twice to just show it to him, when I was much younger. But it was much later that I actually took to learning this piece more seriously, and by then Ashan was not around anymore. He had already passed. So it is more a kind of a recreation in the sense inspired by Ashan's or Guruji's Abhinaya from my memory, but we have a text for it, and I recreated it with the help of my father.
How this performance has been received in India? I mean, you did a tour with this performance, because I read this on the Hindu newspaper. Shirinkala Sahai, who wrote these words. In Parvati Viram, Kapila Venu integrates her feminist politics into the traditional piece, nudging subtle shifts in perspective that she believes would also appeal to contemporary sensibilities. How did you restage and rethink the traditional performance of Parvati Viram using the feeling and the ideas of an Indian woman of today, like you have, of course?
So I didn't change anything in the text or anything in the gesture, but I think very naturally I felt the piece as a woman of now, and I internalized this text with my own sensibilities, just from a woman's perspective. So yes, when I did start performing it, I did it a few performances in different parts of the country, and all the time it was women who really loved the piece, because they could see that this is a very common situation, or it's a very daily situation in everybody's life. But I think from a woman's point of view, there are so many layers and complexities that probably is more challenging for a male actor to invoke. So I think some of it was deliberate, but a lot of it was natural because of me being a woman and me performing it.
In comparison with the piece performed by men, you give also a feeling more serious than the traditional version, which is more comic, more satirical.
I think even traditionally it is not completely comical. There is an element of comic, especially when impersonating the woman. But I think I chose to take it one level more on a serious note. Just, I mean, again, that was something that happened naturally. But I think what is typical of me is that whenever I portray the heroes or the male lover, the male counterpart, what I add from my part is I always also try to make them sensitive and affected by the parting with the female, or being hurt or being vulnerable. I like to make all the male characters also vulnerable, which I think is not so common. So I think male characters are more or less not as deeply affected. Usually, it's, again, I could be wrong, but I make an effort to bring more emotion into the man as well, to the longing, the separation.
It's hard for a woman an actress to change with this feminist perspective the tradition. I mean, did you receive some criticism from scholars or orthodox scholars, lovers of Kutyatam? Did you care about this, or now you feel free to do what you wish to do with your theater?
I believe strongly that it's important to free myself to do what I believe in, and I'm definitely a believer of evolving ideas. I believe that even the traditional arts and the concepts must evolve with the changing political and changing social life. And I don't think there was much criticism, because now the climate is very welcoming to any kind of change. Most people want to see change and want to see different interpretation, want to see, especially feminism is like very welcome. Most people that I know, or in the circles that I move in, it's very, like, I have hardly come across people who would say, speak against that. This is the time where people are really welcoming, social change and trying. Everybody, I think most people want to be liberal and towards all kinds of changing ideas.
So you think that the position of Kutyatam in today Indian society is still relevant, important, no? And what you wish for your Kutyatam in the future?
Remaining socially relevant is definitely an important, it goes without saying. I think it's mandatory that you need to change things, but I think that's not the only element. There are so many things that I feel that if the art must survive, I think there are so many nuances that we always need to be very careful about. For example, molding the next generation, training methods, presentation, finding ideal spaces, and also educating the audience, like being willing to become primary school teachers, and being like completely open to the fact that most people don't understand or believe in traditional arts or hand gestures from ancient times. So just being willing to be patient and cultivate an audience. And so, yeah, I think I wish so many things for the future.
You worked with Mintanaka, with also Bhutto. How these experiences, all these experiences affect you in your traditional work with the Kutyatam? Or are there two separated experiences?
My learning or my experience of living with Min Tanaka is like, it can never be separated from life. And because he is the one who really instilled in me that life and dance are not separate, and that dance is life and sacrifice, and it doesn't end and begin in the wings, but it's like life itself. So he is the one who taught me that lesson. So I would not separate that experience from anything in my life. And it was several years of this beautiful learning that I had with him. And I think it really, really changed my traditional performance as well. And I have always been a person with bipolarities, in the sense that even though I live in a very conservative, traditional, atmosphere, I find it absolutely necessary to go to the other extreme just to maintain my sanity, because I cannot exist in a very conservative situation all the time. So I need to always go and get inspired by the outer world. So that experience is something I hold very precious.
Also, you receive, accept in your center also modern performances coming from outside, I mean from an international background.
So actually this space has always been like that. It's more than 4 decades since the center was opened by my father. So even from my childhood, we always had artists from around the world who would come in a very informal way. So anyone who came could use our studio, could perform and present their work, and the local audiences were more or less most often more interested to watch performances from around the world than what they see regularly. So we have a very nice local audience.
Yeah.
And we have had so many workshops. So we have always been a space that that loves to get in touch with other cultures and other performance traditions, practices. So that's very much a part of our work.
May I intrude with a question that is more technical and something about the relation with the drum and the drumming? What is the relation between your acting and the sound of the drum? Are you following the sound? Is the drum following you? What is the feeling while you are performing?
So the relationship to the drum, Mirava, is very unique in Kudiyatam, because the music in Kudiyatam more or less is not composed. So all the time, the musician is constantly following the movements of the actor, which means the musician is not just a musician, but he's well versed in the text and in the construction of the entire play. And he knows, and also because the relationship between the actor and the musician is most often a lifelong collaboration, because families are attached to each other, and the Kudiyatam is always practiced like a community where artists are almost always attached to the same group for life. So they have a very strong bonding. And so the musician, even though he is sitting at the back, he almost always knows or can anticipate and follow very precisely the movements of the actor. So it's a very special relationship between the musician and the actor in Kudiyatam.
We thank you very much for this conversation. We thank also your parents, and we hope all together to see you as soon as possible in Italy, in Venice, for the performance, to see all the performance, this very interesting, beautiful interpretation that you did of the tradition of Kudiyatam. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kapila. See you very, very soon, I hope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and keep in contact.